Hi everybody. Well, I'm sure you already know about the AMC here. This is, being the head coach of the math team at Bronx Science, you know that I'm a big part of this thing here, and also I give a lot of practice problems from this contest. So for those of you on the math team, you probably already know about this here, but this is primarily for those of you who are not. So note that this contest here, you will get a score, and the score is based solely on the problems you get right, the problems you leave blank here. So it's a bit of an interesting thing where you're actually rewarded for leaving things blank. So we're given here information about some students. So Alice, she answers 15 questions correctly. She leaves 4 blank and gets a 96. Bob gets 10 right, leaves 1 blank, and gets 61.5. And we want to determine what Carol's score will be based on this. All right. So note that in this situation here, we're not exactly sure what the scoring system is about, but we were given two people's things here. So now let's take a look at these. I guess we can go ahead and translate this here. So if we look at Alice here, right? Now in this situation here, we're going to have questions correctly, questions blank here. So that means we're going to be looking at something like this. So I'm going to call this here. So every question that's correct, I'll call that C. So each correct answer is worth C points. And every blank, I'm going to call that B. So if we look at the first situation, we now have 15C plus 4B equals 96 here, right? We can very easily convert that to this equation. Bob has 10 questions correct, so Bob's equation is going to look like this here. Bob is going to be 10C plus B, and that's 61.5. And the goal here is what Carol's score is, Carol's score being 17C plus 3B, and we want to determine what this is going to be equal to. Alright, so in this situation here, I think a lot of you are very familiar with this from Algebra 1 here. You've probably seen this sort of situation where you have two equations and two unknowns here. So remember, as you recall from Algebra 1 here, if you want to be able to solve for specific numbers of variables, you need a number of equations equal to the number of variables at the very least. Any fewer, it's no good. Any more, and you actually have extra information here. So there are a lot of ways we can tackle this problem here. I think we can actually see a couple things that we can do here. Now, I realize that some of the problems in my previous sets involve the use of this, and I apologize about that. Nevertheless, I still think this is a good review of what you did in Algebra 1 here. So one thing that we note here, okay, first thing we note, there's a B here, and that's a solo B. So one thing I can do here, something like this, I can just solve for B in Bob's equation. So I can look at Bob's equation, and we can write B here. We can subtract 10C from both sides and get 61.5 minus 10C. So you know B is going to be equal to that. And now, because of this sort of situation here, we can now go back into Alice's equation and set that up here. So we can say 15C plus 4 times, in this case, 61.5 minus 10C, and that's equal to 96 here. So notice how in doing this, we get rid of the B, so now there's only a single variable that we need to solve for in one equation, which is always a good thing here. So now we can go ahead and just a matter of algebra here. So 4 times 61.5, well, let's see. That's 240. 4 times 1.5 is 6, so it's 246 here. Minus what appears to be 40C. Equals 96 here. So 15 minus 40 gives us a minus 25C on the left-hand side. The right-hand side is 96 minus 246. That's a minus 150. So you can divide both sides by negative 25. You get C is equal to 6 here, right? So now we have C is equal to 6. That's pretty good, because now we can now go back to the thing here. We have B, in this case, is 61.5 minus 10 times 6. Right, and that's 61.5 minus 60, which yields just 1.5 here. So now we have this. Right? Notice how in this situation here, for this setup, we now have the fact that a correct answer is worth 6 points, and a blank answer is worth 1.5. That makes sense. Now, the idea behind this, notice what happened here is that we were able to do this sort of substitution thing, right? We were able to solve for one of the variables in terms of the other, and then we did some substitution here. Okay. Now, alternately, let me do this here. We can set it up in a slightly different fashion here, right? If we take a look at this, one thing we can note is, wait a minute, there's a 15 and a 10 here, or a 4 and a 4. One of the things we can do here is, I see a 4B here, I see a B here. If I can make this a 4B, then I can subtract the equations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Bob, and I'm going to multiply his equation by negative 4. So Alice's equation is going to remain the same. We have 15C plus 4B equals 96. But this time I'm going to multiply this by, actually I'm going to multiply by negative 4 here to simplify things a little bit. So negative 4 times 10, we got a negative 40C. And then negative 4 times B, so that's a minus 4B, and we can see why that's going to be the case here. Negative 4 times 61.5, actually we did that already, that's 246, so it's a minus 246 here. So notice that this here is 4 times Bob here, or negative 4 times Bob, right? Now, in doing this, I think you can see here now, we can combine the two equations here, right? We can see the equations, and when we add them together like so, we get the minus 4b and a positive 4b. These vanish. They're gone, because you have plus 4b, minus 4b, that's gone. 15 plus a negative 40 gives us a minus 25. Negative 25c is equal to minus 150. You get c equals 6. And again, this transposes back down, and then we can do this here. This will actually transpose back down to here, but of course we can just substitute this in here. Again, now we have 10c plus 6 is equal to 61.5. Oh, I'm sorry. My fault. 10 times 6 plus b equals 61.5. So you get b is 61.5 minus 60, or 1.5 again. So no matter how you slice it, you're still going to end up with this here. And now we can go back to the first equation here. So we can go back to the goal here. Right now we know what c and b are. So now this is going to be 17 times 6 plus 3 times 1.5 here. So 17 times 6, that's 102 points. And then you have another 4.5 here. So that yields us a score of 106.5 points. Enough to make the Amy. Pretty good.